Boruto, Naruto the movie. Hate the title, but I love the movie. For this review, because I screwed up when I did the last, I didn't bother doing it, even though both these movies are over 2 years old at this point. I still want to do a spoiler-free portion of this video, so that'll be the first half. The second half of this, or whenever I get to that, won't be split exactly down the middle, but the second part of the video is where I will talk about all the specifics and spoilers of what happens in this film. But to say the least, I enjoyed this one. I thought this was a great first movie for Boruto, considering the anime has just come out. I'm sure we're going to get multiple Boruto movies, but I think this was a great first start. I enjoyed the last, but I love this one. Like, I like what they did with the last. I thought, the action was cool and stuff like that. This one I just thought was like a million times better. I thought emotionally it's definitely better, even though the last is about Naruto and Hinata getting together. It's not as big of a part of the film as you might expect, and also it's kind of just like, it's kind of fast paced. There's not a lot of huge weight to it. It's kind of just like the characters are together now, and that kind of was how the movie went. This one, it focused a lot on Boruto's emotions and his feelings with Naruto as his father, and Naruto being Hokage now, and how tough it is to be Hokage and father. And they touched on that a little bit in like the really early Boruto manga that they did. That was kind of like just sort of a prequel manga before all the Boruto stuff actually started up. And it touched on that a little bit. And I think it was just like with Naruto, where Boruto is he's painting like his father's face, like the Hokage faces. And so Naruto has to like chase him down. And they touch on that a little bit, where it's like, he doesn't have time to be a normal father because he's Hokage. And they really touch on that in a fantastic way, I felt, in this film. And there's emotional stuff from Boruto. There's some stuff. There's one scene in here. It relates more to Himawari, but that was like the most depressing thing ever. I was like, wow, I technically couldn't possibly be a father like that, but I was like, I hope I would never do anything that comes close to that in the real world, because it just made me sad when I saw it. I was like, wow, that was almost depressing to see that play out in real life. But they do some really great stuff with the emotional aspect of that. And of course, Boruto, with him being the older of the two kids, he's actually going into training and stuff. We get to see Konohamaru, we get to see a lot of the characters actually. I mentioned this in the last. Shikamaru always gets a big focus whenever it's a freaking movie. I swear to God, he's one of like the other characters that is always a big focus in the movies, and he had that in here. He wasn't like a big focus, but he showed up quite a bit, especially because of his positions. And I was like, yeah, somehow they always managed to have Shikamaru as like basically number 4 character out of the most important characters in the movies. Shikamaru's always in there. But it was just funny. I was like, man, he, once again, always got a role. But, they did some great stuff. We get to see all the older characters when they're full-grown adults. We don't really see a lot of the like former full-grown adult characters. They show some of them. Mostly everyone shows up during like the ending credits. You get to see like kind of just a cool, fancy ending sequence where they show what all the characters look like. They show like all the kids, because we don't even see all the kids in this. They show like a couple of them. We get to see Boruto, of course, his whole team. So we see Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki. And then we see like a couple of the other kids whose names I really don't even remember at this point. I'm not familiar enough with them, but we get to see Choji's daughter. We get to see Lee's son. We get to see Shikamaru's son. And I feel like that's about it as far as characters that actually get some detail. There's some other characters where I'm like, I know that character. There's a specific boy in this. As soon as you see what he can do, you're like, he's going to be important when the anime comes in. Or, probably in the manga right now. Because I'm like, he's doing way too, his stuff, whatever he's doing is way too cool to just be like, let's just show him in the movie and then nothing happens. I'm like, no, he's probably in the manga right now. So I already know that character is important just because of the way they showed him and what he was doing. I was like, that's too sweet to just be a one-off. So we don't see a ton of the characters, but we get glimpses of them. Like I said, in the ending title sequence, we actually get to see you get to see everyone, and obviously that's the title, so it's not really a spoiler. But they do some great stuff with the emotions in this. The villains are actually pretty cool. They actually do a cool little thing where it's multiple villains, and I won't go into details about that. But I just let you kind of figure that out as it plays on. But I thought that was actually pretty cool the way they did that. And the final fight, I mentioned how I really enjoyed the last, like their final sequence I thought was crazy, and it was pretty fun. This was like insanely over the top. I was like, holy crap, like this is kind of what I wanted from the last, where even that was actually pretty awesome, but this we got to see more characters fighting, and it was just like, it was leagues beyond what they did in the last. I was like, this is absolutely insane. And now I'm like, man, I really shouldn't have skipped over the anime episodes just because I finished the manga. I'm like, I'm going back to make sure I watch that final, the final arc with Kaguya now, because I'm like, wow, I was waiting to watch him anyway, but after seeing this, I was like, I have to see how they animated, that fight sequence, because just reading it, they were doing some intense stuff. Just, that's like a still image, and I was like, that looks insane. I can't wait to see that now animated, because after this, I'm like, I know that this is basically what the Kaguya fight looks like, so I can't wait to go back to the anime to check those fights out. But this was absolutely insane. There's multiple characters fighting. The villain is insanely tough. The heroes are insanely tough. And it was a decent chunk of time, too. It actually lasted longer than I expected. And it was just the fluid motion that they used. And there was, it was kind of varying levels of what we got to see because of the villain. And I'll get into that with the spoilers. But it was really freaking sweet. I was like, man, this is an absolutely insane fight. And I absolutely loved it. So, great fight sequence. Thought the emotional element between Naruto and Boruto was absolutely amazing. I thought they did a great job there. Not much of a focus. Of course, it's Boruto. He's the main character, so we don't get too much on even his own team, like Sada. They kind of reference like, okay, yeah, this is your dad, and Sasuke's your dad, Sakura's your mom. Certain connections to them having similar abilities and stuff. Of course, Sada has the Sharingan, and she's also strong, like Sakura. And I was like, oh, that makes sense, because there's a scene, absolute minor spoilers, but there's fighting. She punched a girl. I was like, man, she punched the F out of that girl. And then Sakura cheered, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I was like, yes, of course she'd be super powerful. So that was just funny and very intense, but they did a great job with the emotions in this movie. It really surprised me, like, how emotional it was, and how it's just like, man, this is a kid who wants to be with his father, and because he doesn't get to be with him as much, he goes down a certain path to get acknowledgement, kind of like Naruto did, where he was the knucklehead just because he had no one and he just needed the attention. They kind of do that in a similar fashion, but it's not kind of being the silly route. It's a different route, and I actually love the way that they handled it. I was like, that makes a lot of sense. He's a young kid. He doesn't really understand certain elements and how, some stuff he just really shouldn't do. And I just love the way they handled it. And then it really comes to a head after a certain point. I was like, I can't wait to see how this plays out. And then it gets even crazier after that. But I really loved it. This is me officially going into the spoilers now, but I really loved what they did with the villains in this, because much like the last, they're like, alright, so we have the last, we have Boruto, and we have Kaguya. So why don't we just make two brand new sets of villains that revolve all around Kaguya and the Sage of the Six Paths? And I actually love that they found a way to logically make that stuff work. It's like, the last basically had the Six Paths brother on the moon, and this movie, we have, instead of it tying to the Six Paths, who's like the hero becoming the villain a little bit because it was his brother, we have just a new set of villains for basically coming from Kaguya's thing, which is like, in a weird sense, they kind of explained it in a quick second, but it was like, that's why she was building the White Zetsus, because these guys wanted to come steal a bunch of power. And I'm like, that almost makes her seem like the good guy for like that one specific line. I was like, that's kind of funny that it kind of played out that way. I was like, that's funny, but no, she was definitely evil. So we have these villains who come in, and they're tied to Kaguya, and I love that. They had absolutely immense power, just like in the last. I was like, these are people who are basically like almost siblings of the main villains and the like ultimate powers from Kaguya and the Sage of the Six Paths. So you have the last, where they can rival Naruto, and then you have this movie where they can rival both Naruto and Sasuke, because they go even above where Naruto is kind of by himself as far as that ultimate league in the last movie. In this one, we get to see Sasuke and Naruto fight, which was really awesome, because I mentioned from my review of the last, I thought Sasuke had a bigger role in that, and he only had like a couple of scenes. But in this, he's a big component of it. Like, he's training Boruto, which is awesome. He has some epic fight sequences, especially the ending. And, he takes his cloak off. It's like, this cloak is making me too slow. He does like the Piccolo move, where it's like, he didn't really need to take it off, but he does. Well, Piccolo needed to, just to move faster. But in this case, he definitely didn't need to. But it was like, he's in like his little button-down suit. And Naruto is, he goes into his Sage mode. And it looked sweet. And it was just an absolutely amazing fight. I love when they do taijutsu. And I was so freaking happy, where it was like they couldn't use ninjutsu the whole way through until they were getting to like, they were doing, Sage mode. And I forgot what the Susuono or Sasuke, I always forget, like there's like one of those syllables I always mix up. But Sasuke, of course, using his ultimate power, and also using his, which couldn't officially be absorbed as ninjutsu. But I really love that. I was like, that was cool. We got to see a bunch of taijutsu. We get to see the new 5 Kage. So Gaara's still around, of course. Naruto's the new Hokage. We get to see Darui take over for the Land of Lightning. We get a little bit of a shot early on in the film of course, our 8 Tails. And that was pretty cool, but not much happens there. He has his little moment in the ending sequence where he's spitting up water and it's like, check it out, he's alive, he didn't die or anything. So it was cool to see them. But we get, some former characters. I don't really remember their names at all, but of course we get the young kid who was with the Mizukage, and then we get the girl who's with the Tsuchikage. I believe that was the guy's name. The old guy, of course. But it was cool to see them kind of take over these big roles, and so they're the new 5 Kage and stuff. They have a cool sequence where, it's all taijutsu and stuff, and mostly it's Naruto and Sasuke, Sasuke especially in the beginning of the fight, with just super speed, and he's flipping his katana around and stuff. I like his old blade a little bit better. It looked like he just had like a broadsword. It was kind of like a Chinese broadsword, actually, because of the way that the guard looked. But I thought it was cool, him running around and stuff. And like I said, it was kind of funny to see him when he took the cloak off, that he looked like he was dressed up, like almost in his suit. He was like a jacket away from basically being dressed up for like a fancy ball or something. And Naruto comes along, and he's just like lighting up in full stage. And I was like, it's really funny to see the two of them stand next to each other, and Sasuke looks like he's going to like, a ballroom party or something. It's funny, but great action sequence there. We get to see some really great stuff. They tease it early on when the villains attack the tuning exam, and Naruto summons basically like the image of Kurama, and it's just the head. And then Sasuke does the, he does the Susanoo, and it goes over the head. And then they do the full body at the end, and he gets a katana. I was like, this is absolutely amazing. Like, the visuals for it were absolutely great. It was very fluid and stuff like that. So I loved the whole ending fight sequence. We get to see kind of, I'd say like the last 40 minutes. Well, it wasn't the last 40 minutes. I guess it really was only like the last 20 minutes. I don't know why I doubled it. But we get to see Boruto wearing Naruto's jacket in the film. And I thought that was a really cool thing to do. I wasn't expecting that. He has his outfit with the black jacket, which I think looks really great. I think all the designs for the kids look really good. He has a cool, outfit. Himawari is just like the cutest little girl they've ever had, like, in this anime. It was kind of funny. But he has a really cool outfit and stuff, but he switches to Naruto's jacket, and Sasuke actually gives him his old headband from when Naruto and Sasuke fought the first time, so he puts that on to go into like the final fight to, save his dad and stuff. And I was like, that looks really cool. So they're all teaming up. He's in, his dad's outfit, and they play like the old music from like the original series and stuff, especially at the end where Sasuke realizes, because they show it early on, but Boruto's Rasengan is actually, it's not a failure. Like, it seems tiny, but it has, well, I wouldn't say it has the same impact, but it has, impact still. And like, I love how they did that, where like it changes in chakra nature, and it becomes, it's almost like Naruto going into Sage Mode, where he gets the eyes and stuff. Or, is that Sage Mode? I'm forgetting all the names, but obviously not 6 Paths Mode, but yeah, I think it's just Sage Mode. But I thought that was really great. I was like, that's a cool way to do it, because they've explained that a lot before, was like, that's how Naruto, kind of in the Great War, when it was like, okay, they're just absorbing all of my chakra when I go into like 6 Paths Mode and stuff, where I, kind of go into my, Nine Tails cloak. They're able to just suck that right out of me, so I got to go Sage Mode because they can't just absorb that energy. So it was kind of like that, and we get to see like this new version of the Rasengan from Boruto, which was cool. And then we get to see what I like to consider the equivalent of the Dragon Ball Z Team Gohan Father-Son Super Kamehameha, which is Boruto with his little Rasengan, and then Naruto like amps it up to 1,000,000, and it's kind of like the Father-Son Rasengan, which I thought was pretty cool. And of course, Sasuke and Boruto are able to take out the villain, because Sasuke goes in and they're switching and swapping. He basically pulls the yellow flash where he threw the blade. I thought that was actually kind of awesome, and it lands on the ground, and it was like he switched places with it. I was like, that was almost like a yellow flash moment, so I thought that was sweet. But he's able to distract him, and then Boruto comes down, he stabs the eye so he can't absorb it in the free hand, and he's already got the giant like dark Rasengan in the other hand, and then Boruto comes in and they clash. And of course, for whatever reason, Boruto won, even though it was kind of just like his will to win, and that's what happened, he won. And then he had that little extra twist on it where he basically formed like a black hole and just sucked everything in and killed the guy, and I was like, that was pretty sweet. So, really loved that. We get a cool ending sequence where his jacket's messed up and he tells Hinata to just leave it that way because it's cool. And of course he has the bandage on one of his hands, so when he and Naruto fist bump at the end, it's similar because they're bandaged up. So great way to do the emotional element of that. Him early on in the film where he feels neglected by his father, and okay, the scene I was talking about with Himawari and the birthday party, that made me so sad. Where they're celebrating and stuff, and it lasted for a while too. And then it just ends with him, Naruto, just going poof, and he disappears. And I was like, wow, for his own daughter's party, he sent a shadow clone. It was like he couldn't just go there and keep the shadow clone at work. And it was just like, wow, that seems so sad. And even though Himawari wasn't, really upset about it, it was more Boruto. I was kind of on his side in that part because he was mad, of course. It was like, yeah, Naruto has to do stuff. He's the Hokage. But that part, I was just like, yeah, I'm totally on Boruto's side. Like, he couldn't just, that one time, it's birthdays. It's literally the one day. And he still did the shadow clone thing. And it was just at the worst moment. They're singing, they're happy and stuff, and they're singing to the little girl. And then, poof, Kate just hits the ground. I was like, wow, that was just a messed up move. But I love how they went through the emotional element of Boruto's character, him using this new sort of chakra thing, which we get to see Konohamaru show off, and he even has like the blue scarf, which I thought was cool. But we get to see him show it off early on, and then Boruto starts to use it during the tuning exam because he's not as powerful. He's not strong enough to win. So he starts just whipping out all these techniques, which I know they reference it. And like Tenten was watching him and she was like, he's good. Didn't even see him weaving signs. Like, you wouldn't expect anything less from the 7th Hokage's son. I'm like, I know kids can be powerful, but like even Sasuke, when he was younger, he was like dying if he did the Chidori more than one time. Like he had to go curse mark in order to use that junk like more than twice. And I'm like, there's just a lot of techniques. And plus he was using like water techniques and lightning techniques, and technically it wasn't the Chidori, so I guess he was able to use it because technically anyone can use like any chakra. You're just better, you might just be better at certain things. And I was just like, man, they don't find that a little bit suspicious. He's just whipping out techniques out of nowhere that no one's ever seen. But I guess it was like, all right, yeah, that's kind of the point. And people don't really get it. And then when he hit the tuning exam and he summoned all the clones at once and everybody like lost it, I was like, he's busted. Like as soon as they showed Naruto, I was like, yep, he knows his son can't possibly do that. And he just calls him out in front of everybody. I was like, wow, this is a really good scene. And Boruto's mad at him. Like, if you'd ever bothered to even be there to lecture me, maybe I wouldn't have gone down this path to try to impress you so much. And it was just like, that's really good, actually. Like him getting the email early on, I was like, I thought he'd be happy. And then he's like, wow, he didn't even bother sending a clone. He sent an email. And I was like, wow, he's kind of got a point. It was just, I like the way they did the emotional element for his character. I love how they did the silly stuff with the scientists seemingly being villains. And then they come out and it turns out like, no, they weren't bad guys. They just wanted to be like, check this out, it works, look at that, amazing. And then they end up screwing up the ending fight as well because they jump through the portal and they're trying to get the freaking thing on camera. Like, check it out, it works, we killed the main villain. And I was like, that's actually a funny way to do that, where they seem like the secondary villains at least, through like the first half of the film, or really like the first hour and a half of the film. I think it's like a 2-hour movie, or maybe it's like an hour and a half. So like the first hour of the movie, you think that these two guys are like somehow related to the other villains and that they're trying to utilize this technology to trick everybody and somehow bring in the other villains and they all work together. It's like, nope, they're actually not bad guys at all. They're just trying to sell a product. And that was pretty much it. And I was like, that's a funny twist. And then of course the real villains come back, and that's when things start to get like epically hardcore. But love the way they did the movie. Like I said, I really love the emotion. Loved the action at the end. That was actually great. It was cool to see a new tuning exam. I just thought that was cool because that's like just one of the coolest things from the whole series. I've always thought the tuning exam was really, really good. I liked their first part better than the original first part, where it was like, if you gave up because you didn't know the answer, you would fail. I always hated that. I always thought that was just the craziest thing. Like, because the way they do it is like, you have to believe in yourself and stuff, and even if you think it's wrong, you have to go for it. I'm like, but if you're wrong in the real world, you could die. They're ninjas fighting in battles and stuff. And I just always hated that. Every time I think about that, I'm like, that first part just never made sense to me. Like, how that was just logical. But this one made a lot of sense. It was like, if you fail and you just gave up, then you know, what does it matter? Like, why drop in? You know, it's still kind of the same concept, but at the same time, it's just like, even just under a normal circumstance, why would you drop into the ink? Even if you hadn't figured that out, I'd be like, no, I'm just going to stay here. I'd probably be too dumb to figure that out in that split second. Also, it comes up on the board. Like, that should have been obvious for everybody, to me. Like, oh, crap, something's attached here. Let's not fall into the ink. But I was like, I like that a little better. Still a little crazy. But love the Chunin exam. Love the emotion. Love the action. Excited to get into Boruto officially now that I've seen both the last as well as this film. I am going to go back and check out the Kage battles though, because I'm excited to see some of that great animation. And I might check out the Road to Boruto, which is for Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. I mentioned that in my last review, but I might actually just check that out on YouTube because it's actually like animated cutscenes, or I'll end up buying it because I do kind of want to play it myself and get some of the other characters. But really love the movie. Excited to get into Boruto officially. Of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about this movie, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. What'd you think of it? Just in general, did you like the emotional element to it? I was very surprised by it, but I loved it. Obviously, the action was just top-notch, especially at the ending, and all the visuals, and Naruto going like full Sage mode and stuff was great, or Six Paths mode was cool. It looked even cooler, because I mentioned that also in the last. I didn't think it looked as cool because he had like the black jacket outfit. It didn't look as cool as it did in this movie, because once again, him with the open jacket, when he goes like, you know, full Nine Tails cloak, it looks really freaking sweet because it's like flowing, especially when he had like the actual Hokage cloak on, and it was like it was basically just a giant cape. I was like, that looks super sweet, and then eventually that burned away. But the end fight, he had like the open jacket. I was like, that just looks so much cooler when it's like a cool open flowing jacket compared to in the last, where it was just the button up suit or like the zipped up thing, and it was just like a normal jacket. He was just lighting up orange. I was like, that just doesn't look as cool to me. So I was glad they had him with like the open jacket look again, like the end of the anime, because I just think it looks better. But we'd love to know how you guys felt about the emotional impact of this film. Just what you guys loved about it and didn't love about it. I don't really know what specific question to really ask. Of course, there's the ending, which everyone knows this now, but the extra credit cutscene where Mitsuki reveals that Orochimaru is his dad and stuff. I was like, yeah, I knew that because the movie's 2 years old. But I love that too. But like I said, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this film, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.